guess we'll just, are you
Just
ready?
call it to order.
All right, we'll call to order our finance meeting. Ms. Katie, I guess you're gonna,
Yeah.
who's gonna start off with?
Kayla's gonna start, and then she's just gonna give you guys an update, a cash report on all the funds, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, I should have it in front of y'all.
Looks like
Y'all want me
this.
to go by line item, or y'all just gonna?
Take a few
Whatever you
minutes
think's
to read it.
important.
The most important one is I would recommend Johnson Bayou Fire. They started off the year in the negative of $140,948. They did receive $1.7 million in their Avalon, but their budget is. Yeah, they still owe us $610,000. They have up until May of 2023 to pay us back, but their estimated projected year end is 1.6 million. And as of right now, as of January 31st, they're at 1.4 million.
I thought, you said Johnson Bayou Fire?
Yes.
I thought Johnson Bayou Fire, was that funded by,
No.
no?
No. I think
I thought they was funded by, they had some supplemental money coming in over there from,
Johnson Bayou Fire is getting in the same situation as Cameron Fire.
And they're aware of it. I went to a meeting there with the chief and their secretary in October and told them. And
well, they have paid firemen over there, huh?
yes, they have 11 full-time firemen, one full-time secretary who makes $40,000 a year, and their fire chief makes $48,000. He's not full-time, but he makes $48,000, and they just hired a new fireman here in the past. He signed up yesterday.
Well, they're living way out of their
Both
means then.
firemen.
They need to cut back. They out of their means.
Yep.
We done loaned the money one time.
But Cameron, when that happened to Cameron, they had to let him go and just had to go back to volunteer.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
We've asked them, like Kayla said, this has been ongoing for 3 years. Most of you other Jawars remember our finance meetings. We've been talking about this since the Cameron Fire situation. We've been monitoring it. We send them finance reports. We ask them to cut back. They say they keep they're operating at the minimum. But like I said, Kayla, she met with them. We've talked on the phone with them. And after we tell them that they're going to close the year in the negative and they don't have any money left to operate for the remainder of the year, which was last year, they turned around and hired another fireman, and they gave raises. And we really don't know what else to do about it. I mean, we've told the board that they're having issues. We've told the secretary and everything. So really, that $610,000 that they have 2 years to pay us, it probably would be really helpful for us to have that right now for hurricane recovery, but we can't require them to pay it. They don't have to pay it till 2023. And then on top of that, they'll be lucky to make it through the end of this year without going in the negative. And we can't loan them any more money, so they either need to look at passing another tax, or they need to
They have to cut back.
cut back a lot.
Isn't the police jury the actual board over the fire departments?
And Tom's here, or he was here. That's what Tom was saying. You guys create the special service district to run the fire department on your behalf, but you don't have to. You can retain that responsibility if you choose to. And
I
you
remember
can-
as a juror having to come to the jury to do some things in Creole because the little board we had was just like a little temporary, like a little
And they
go-between,
they're-
and then the jury was actually the actual.
What's the board saying?
Well, they have their meetings and they say, well, their reasoning usually was waiting on the Chenier tax to come online. You know, every year they get a little bit more tax money. So this year was their largest tax payment from Chenier. So now that they're expected to get around $2 million before the storm of tax money. Of course, that's not going to happen this year with everyone's properties being rolled back. So really they just have that $1.7 million worth of Avalon tax to operate on the remainder of the year. But under best case circumstances, they would get, starting next year, around 2 million.
You got a $48,000 for a part-time fire chief?
That's what they have, yes, sir.
No, he's
And they
not a
have
chief.
12
He's
full-time.
an employee.
No, he's the chief.
He's the chief.
He's the chief, but he's not like considered full-time.
He's still a fireman in Sulphur,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Carl
like,
Sulphur.
he's not benefits or nothing with us. He's
How much does he work?
He works as needed. He doesn't report to work on a normal shift. He's just salary, and he works when he needs to. They schedule firemen and they run the department, but he doesn't have an actual clock in, clock out type work schedule.
That's a lot of money on a part-time job.
You're saying they're gonna expend more than they take in this year?
It's predicted, yeah, very good possibility. And at this rate, we just don't ever see a scenario where they have enough surplus funds to repay us.
All right, let's,
If they're barely making it year in and year out, then they'll never be able to repay us what they owe us.
let's schedule to have them, either have them at our meeting, and we can lay the law down to them, or we can go and have a meeting with them. But we need to do one of the two. And tell them if they can't, if the board can't do it, we'll do it for them. So, just simple as that.
I'm behind you on that, son. I mean, we need to.
Me too.
There's times we need to step in if the board's not doing their job.
Yeah. Well, the board being there separate are hearing different things than we're hearing. So we need to make sure we got all this stuff square and that they pay that loan back, because that was the guarantee they gave. They were gonna pay it back within a certain amount of time, and you're saying 2023?
May.
And if they're going in the hole
Yeah,
every year.
yeah, they can't do that. And look, we can't be having that many firemen if we can't support them. I mean, you know, because firemen, I don't know if you know this, guys, but they're expensive. Because their retirement, you pay all of that.
And I
It's very
just got it,
expensive.
it's 33.75% is what the employer pays.
They buy all their clothes and everything, and they buy them 2 or 3 times a year, not just once a year. They buy them 2 or 3 times a year. That's one of the problems with the
Right. Well, it's expensive to have a man, fire department. Now, I will say this in defense of them, they have brought our fire rating way down. We're
Yeah.
good, we're probably the number
They're
one
very
in the
good.
parish. But if it gets to the point where the taxpayers can't pay for it, with what we have, we're not gonna raise the tax. The people ain't gonna vote to raise the tax.
Johnson Bayou pays a very high tax rate for the number of people that they have, more than most anywhere.
The best thing to do is just get them over here and we'll,
You wanna have a special meeting? Y'all wanna do a special meeting? Y'all wanna
What
do
we
it?
did with the Cameron Fire,
Good,
we
yeah,
had a special meeting.
It may be one that we don't air. It may, because we may be getting personal on some things. So, but if you wanna have a special meeting, we set it up,
Yeah, we gotta take control, we gotta get something going.
okay?
Yeah.
So Katie, I'm just gonna speak out, just pick a time that would be good for you guys, where we could work it in and with the jury, and, set it up.
Yes, sir.
But that would be my only concern with money. would be that one.
Okay, will we go over the general fund
Okay.
for us too, please?
Okay, the general fund, the opening balance is what we ended in last year is $9,783,058. We collected $1,094,980 in Avalon. Other revenue was $104,108, putting the total revenue at $1,199,087. Total expenditures was $541,840. Closing us as of January 31st is $10,340,306.
so we projected to close with more money than we had closed last year.
Well, that's just the end of January.
That's the projection though, right? Closing balance of 131.21.
At the end of the year, on the budget.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is just a cash report for the end of January, where we are.
All right, I understand now.
But we did adopt a budget that banked the surplus last year, so we hope we're gonna monitor that and see if we're on track for that. But we did adopt a balanced budget last year for the general fund.
To use up the 9 million?
No balance, like you just.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay. So we should have
We should
that,
maintain that.
should maintain that
balance.
balance, but, all right. But that's gonna come in handy, it seems like, here pretty quick.
Mhm.
We should get reimbursed for a lot of it, but
Mhm. And that's the last two lines, the disaster fund at the very end, Laura and Delta, that, $4.7 million, balance. That's what we've expended for hurricane recovery efforts right now. Now, a lot of it is gonna be reimbursed by FEMA, but right now, that's what we've had to expend that hasn't been reimbursed to us yet.
and that's mainly what, the
Debris
Debris removal.
removal, mainly. Our favorite topic.
I'd like to use some of
Well,
that-
when is
I'd
that
like to use some
projected
of
to
that
fall,
patch up
start
my rear
rolling
end.
back in?
Sorry.
When would that be projected to start rolling back in?
Best case scenario, 2 months. We should start seeing a little bit of cash coming back from the federal government. We're working on the PW obligations right now, working through that system with FEMA. So I'd say 60 days, we should start seeing some of those funds being returned.
Eddie, do you have a number on how much of that 4.7 is reimbursable as of right now?
Yes and no. It's not gonna be current. We did do an estimate last month. So we were looking at FEMA, from what I recall, our debris removal services at a 90-10 split was around $500,000 last month. So,
So we will recover some.
yeah. That's where we're at right now.
Y'all talk about the fire?
But they make it, yeah.
That's about the fire? No, I saw that. That's what's unreal, man. I mean, like, and nothing against Johnson Bias, Sunday morning, nothing, but I mean, I added all of them up, all this other districts, $408,000 that we, poor little Creole, we over here with, $8,700 that we get on taxes. And Johnson Bias, $1.7 million, you know?
That's what I said, Johnson Bayou pays
Seems like it
so
cuts
many,
roll
so
some of
much
that back,
taxes,
get somebody some
unbelievable.
tax break. you know?
They're actually getting more tax money than we're getting in our general fund.
That's right.
Yep.
Which is unrestricted to
They
do all
gotta
parish
have
lighting
to
ordinance.
operate within their means. That's what we told this other fire district, and it's just that, I mean, I hate to say it. Everybody needs good fire protection, sure, you know. I've said this before when we talked about Cameron, you know. Everybody needs good fire protection, but everybody gotta live within their means.
But you say they have 11 firemen now and they want to hire another one.
Well, they just hired another one, so it'll be 12 total.
So they got 12.
Yes, sir.
I don't see why they need that many.
They have
They
to
got-
volunteer.
And you got two main
No.
man stations, Holly Beach and Johnson Bayou. It's all in the same district. So they got man, people at both places. And there may not be a need for that.
I don't see why one fire station in Johnson Bayou
Like
would
in
be
Holly
good enough.
Beach, everything's in one spot. Depending on if they ought to get a few volunteer firemen in that area. to
No.
work with.
Right now, they used to,
No,
but right now.
not now. They don't have, the firemen that was in Holly Beach are older, and they don't, and ones that are younger, they don't want to participate.
But this is the deal though. If they get to where they have to do it or their insurance rate shoots up, somebody's gonna volunteer. You know, once it comes back on that ballot, then somebody's gonna volunteer.
Well, the thing, what people don't understand about PIL, and that was my business. PIL has certain criteria that you have to meet to be qualified as a firefighter,
Mhm.
and not just, I'm in the fire department, okay? A lot of them, that's what they say, I'm in the fire department. They don't have the qualifications, so they can't count them. Plus, they have to produce records of training so many times per year. So it's a lot more than you think is into it. I mean, that's the same thing that happened to Cameron.
Well,
You know,
Cameron.
their
Well, we done
firemen-
turned it around. We went from
Yeah.
10 to 5.
With local
Right.
people.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it can be done. is what
Yeah,
I'm
oh, it
saying.
can be done, but like I'm saying, there's a lot of regulations that PIL is gonna put on you that if you don't meet them, you're not qualified.
If it's- Yeah, if it's my
And
community,
it's
and
just
I
like
want
there's
the
two-
insurance, I'm gonna do what I
Yeah,
gotta do.
exactly, and there's two locations too. And depending on the distance, is the reason they have the two.
Let's,
Well, Cameron had 2 firemen, right? And they had 2 locations. You know, didn't need 12.
But then to show up to a fire, if Timmy was here, I think to actually get any credit for it, I think he had at least have 4 people to show up, I believe, to a fire.
And they have to show up within a certain period of time.
Well, I mean, yeah, but we can see some problems. We'll just all get with them and see what
well,
we can line
and they
up.
can explain exactly what they got going on and why, and then we can tell them, so look, and when it comes down to it, if you can't work within your fiscal budget, that's where we step in. It's our place to step in. We've already loaned you money once. I mean, it's my place, and I'm a little frustrated too, because it didn't know about this new fireman they hired. And you shouldn't be doing that when you're in a bind, you owe money. They may need it, but they could wait. I mean,
Say this was 3 years ago they borrowed some money, is that what it was?
Yeah.
And they get 1.7, and they had to borrow how much?
well, they just got that this
They
year.
weren't getting that much. They were getting $1 million at the time they borrowed money. And so that's, the jury at the time agreed to loan the money. That way, when Cheniere, they could stay open and operating, and then when Cheniere came online and their revenues went up, then they would just repay us the money and
What-
everything would be fine.
what-
But that's not quite how it's played out. We loaned them the money, and then as revenue increased, the expenditures increased.
So have they paid any back to them?
No, sir.
They haven't paid anything back?
Mm-mm.
We'll see this year, they're supposed to pay some back, she's saying
This year.
they're not gonna pay this year. But what they need to understand, same thing, every other entity needs to understand, just because your tax revenues go up, doesn't mean you got more money to spend. You need to work within your bounds. And if we can cut a break to the taxpayer, that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
Just because you go up a $500,000 and you've been able to operate at this level, other than inflation rates, you shouldn't have to spend that other $500,000. That should be either going in the bank or going back to the taxpayer. So
There are possibly more positions, there's positions that are possibly not needed.
Right. Well, I know that they got 2 people on site at Johnson Bayou, 2 people in Hollow Beach all the time. That's 8 people, and if they work 7 and 7, and they're on for 24 hours, or how they work it, they count it while they're there. Where the other 4 come in, I can understand a little bit of vacation relief once in a while, maybe an extra 1 or 2, but not 4 more.
That, you got a secretary that makes $40,000 a year, and your part-time chiefs make 48.
Well, I thought, don't the parish take care of everybody else's fire departments, secretaries, pretty much?
The
Yeah.
fire departments pay their own
Oh, they,
secretaries.
okay.
But what we are doing, we
Not
are
like
paying
that,
their
though.
salaries. We take
Not
care of
that
their
much.
we take care of their finances, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
That's
So
what
I don't
I'm
know,
saying.
the secretary just does, I guess,
I think she does a lot of the scheduling for the firemen, like work scheduling
Yeah.
and stuff, and then she does do the minutes and the agendas.
right.
The fire chief couldn't do that for it.
We can have the conversation.
That's what I'm saying.
But now, if that fire chief works in Sulphur, in time, he'll be able to draw a retirement
Yep.
from Sulphur. Will he draw a retirement
Have
from
no
us
idea.
too?
No, he's part-time with us, isn't he?
Right, yeah, he's not
Yeah, he
paying
don't- he
into
just
the
part-time.
retirement system. But the
I'd
full-time
be-
firemen are.
And I think they all draw from the fireman's fund, so I don't think he can double dip in that.
No.
I don't think. So, I mean, we could find those questions out. Those are
Yep,
questions. Are good
those are
questions.
really good questions, and we certainly can schedule a meeting with them, like you said, or we can go over there with the board members and sit down and really go through it and see if we can come up with some new strategies to cut back on their expenses to where they can at least bank some surplus over the next 2 years to be able to repay us, because we don't want them to default. That affects the parish as a whole. If they default on repaying us, then that negatively impacts like our credit scoring as well.
Okay, so, when we set this meeting, we're gonna have the board there and the fire chief, right?
We can have everyone
Yeah,
there.
that's what needs to be. That way they can't say, well,
Everyone
they
but
did
the
this.
fireman. We need the fireman to stay over there.
Yeah, just the fire chief and,
The board, really. we need the board here.
Well, we need the fire chief to answer the questions that we're
Right, that way they
asking.
can't say, oh, well, we need to wait and get with the fire chief, that way he'll be here.
No, but, I mean, you could have the board too.
Yeah, the board and the fire chief.
Yeah.
You wanna get them to come over here?
We can schedule the meeting and ask them to come here, if y'all want them to come here, or do you
Yeah.
wanna go to Johnson Bayou?
No.
We can-
No,
we
they
can
need
post
to
them
I
come-
there.
think
need
it
to
would be a
come
little
here.
more intimidating sitting right here talking to them.
Yeah.
It would be
They
going
can
over
come
there.
over here.
Yeah, have them come here. Donald should be
Most of
sitting.
them probably work, probably have to make it after 5.
Yeah, what time
That's
is
too
good?
much money.
Whatever, we gotta get on top of this,
Yeah.
5:30?
whatever fits them.
We'll
I
get it
think all those
scheduled.
board members are retired, aren't they, Sonny?
One, two, one of them still working, Larry's still working.
Oh, Mr. Larry, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was over Glenn, Larry, Mr., on the beach there, what's his name?
They got Richard Burbank,
Oh, yeah,
He's
Burbank.
Sam
retired.
Coleman.
Sam, I think
Sam
Sam's
retired.
still working. Sam retired?
I think he retired.
Yeah.
Really, you don't, I wouldn't say we need the whole board because there's 7 of them. You probably just need the president, vice president,
3 or 4.
3 or 4.
I'd like
I'd like the
I'd
board
like
to
to
be-
invite the secretary too, and
Yeah.
the reason is,
Like
we
the
can
whole
discuss
thing, that way they
with
can't
her
really bounce and
what,
help each other. I mean,
what issues that we have that we would like done differently, correct? Because she's probably the person y'all deal with more than anybody, am I correct? So it'd be good to have her too.
I think it would be good to hear what they got to say and then flip it around on them and say, y'all go figure it out. Because this is where it's gonna go if
Right.
y'all don't.
Well, here's the
Because,
thing.
you know, I don't wanna be one that's gonna dictate to the fire department what exactly they need to do. But they need to come and with a plan to fix the problem we identify for
Right.
them.
And it's my fire department, and guys, I'm not hammering on them too much, but at the same time, we have a responsibility to the people in this parish to make sure that all boards
Exactly.
operate fiscally responsibly. I mean, and if they're not doing it, we can tell them that we have an obligation from that point on to do it for them. And that's the way I see it. I mean, I don't see any other.
No, that's right, I mean, that's why we elected, so.
Yeah.
So I think get them here, you'll have a chance to discuss with us, and we can go forward from there.
Where we at now? Joe?
We're gonna invite the entire board
Can we
in.
do it?
We want, we can do
Okay.
that. Yes.
And before we move to the next one, I just want to let you know, in December, we did get $33,000 credit on our insurance for COVID. Like our health insurance credited us $33,000.
How did we get that?
We got it, it was taken off our bill.
Well, I understand, but did they get paid from somewhere else?
I'm not sure, they just credit us on our bill $33,000.
Yeah, I just wondered. like I
Who's
said,
they?
Blue Cross,
Blue Cross?
yes.
before we talk
Insurance
about
credit
the
you?
deal with them.
Don't ask no
No.
question. Yeah, you don't ask no question where they got it from. Let's get it.
Identify them credits?
That's right, they don't usually give money back, so
No.
there's a reason, they must have got it somewhere else.
Because I could swear I heard on TV the federal government saying something that, you know, they was gonna pick up a part of that.
That might be
COVID.
where it came from. We can ask Mr. Irvin, he would know. We'll find out.
All right.
We at next, B.
Y'all have any more questions? Do you want to go through each one of them?
What do y'all want? Let's go through every.
I don't.
No.
We good?
Alrighty, I'm good.
We're good, and B, so where y'all wanted to, now I don't see mosquito control on here. Is that a reason?
We don't take care of that claims.
I know y'all don't, but I
Only-
mean, we don't have their, Steve, you know what y'all's balance is and how much y'all bringing in? I'm just curious.
I know we have banked close to 7 million.
Oh, y'all need to give up some of that.
Yeah, we need a loan over here, but jury.
For the mosquito control, and that's. the
Yeah, but
only-
watch all your expenditures, because years ago it was $4 million a year to operate.
You know, it's expensive.
I know it's
You gotta
expensive.
change
I
that
don't
plane
remember
every
what
so
the
often.
It's expensive.
expenditures were, but I
It
do
is.
know they
Thank
spent
you.
quite a bit
This
after
is
the
the first one,
hurricanes.
so you get a.
I think it was $500,000 that they spent on after the hurricanes.
That's fine. I was just curious. I didn't see them.
I
I
know
know,
this-
we don't handle they'd just be good to know their finances.
I know this summer they're gonna
Y'all
spend
know.
another 4 million for sure, because them mosquitoes is gonna be unbelievable.
Not in the truck. You don't fly that plane, it ain't gonna be no 4 million, not in trucks. I never see the plane.
Plane's been flying. They did a good job this year, I thought.
They put the planes on again.
Yeah, I seen
Hadn't
them
seen it in a
pass
while.
one day 4
That
times
was
over my
Circus
head while I
Scott's
was
house
talking
about
to
3
this
times.
woman.
They used to circle Carl's house. That's why I was glad I was next to Carl.
There it is, I tell you, see, passed over his head 4 times.
I hadn't seen him in a while.
Remember who was I talking to you that time? Yeah, I said, I said, you hear the plane? Oh, man, here he come again. Whoa, there he go again.
Yeah.
Like, dang.
Katie, I have a question.
They,
How are we on budget? Is this, are we where we supposed to be on budget other than?
Go ahead, Kayla.
Hey, either like this or like
Yeah, we're
this.
good.
That's pretty much what we want to get.
Main thing? Okay.
Katie, you wanna move on to,
Yes.
personal classification?
Now that we have a finance report in front of us and we're looking at our cash balances, I wanted to talk to you guys about 2 things. We'll take the road and bridge first. So, right now you have a Cameron Creole road crew district, and they operate out of one barn, which is the Cameron Maintenance Barn. And that foreman has passed, and the Cameron foreman's been doing a lot of the workload. And so with the with Shane and Emily, we've talked a lot about what the future of the road and bridge department should look like. How can we better service the community and keep everything transparent? So we'd like to propose the idea of consolidating the Cameron Creole road crew. Since they report to one barn and there's not a current foreman, instead of hiring a new foreman, just let the Cameron foreman be the foreman of both crews, and instead promote one of the road crew people up to a position that we're going to create called the lead-off hand. Because we know the foreman can't be in 2 places at once. If the Grand Chenier district is from, it takes Cameron and Creole in one, sometimes they might be working on 2 different areas. So if we have a lead-off hand position, then they can communicate. He would serve as like the acting foreman, I guess you could say, in the absence of the foreman, while the foreman was worrying about other projects. But that foreman would be able to, he would be responsible for all the equipment, so that would eliminate a lot of that sharing of equipment and a lot of that conflict that happened between 2 crews and blaming one crew or the other for breaking a piece of equipment. Also, the foreman would supervise all of both crews, and he would be able to work the crew as one unit, or he could separate it and let the lead-off hand take it. It would be use of his discretion on what he thought he needed to accomplish that week. So that's something that we want to ask you guys today to consider. The job description for a lead-off hand is in your packet. It says lead-off hand, and they would report to the foreman. And then the classification system of what it would look like, we set if you look lead-off hand, it is exactly in the middle of the crew and the foreman. So that position would be compensated right in the middle. I think that would be a fair pay. Something that we want to try and see how this works, and if it worked well and it took care of everything and the community liked it and it was working well with you drawers, maybe look at implementing it in other parts of the parish through natural attrition, like somewhere like Grand Lake where they have 1 barn and 2 crews. Maybe
Well,
eventually go that route.
That's what Katie talked to me about it, that's what she said, about combining, to not only be Lower Cameron, but be Grand Lake. She said that eventually take Grand Lake, because you have 1 barn and 2 crews out of there too.
It could be applied there too, if it works well, and that would be, but that's through, like I said, that would be years down the road when one of the foremen were to retire, we could consider it at that point.
I thought the way y'all talked that somebody was getting ready to retire pretty soon, so it's gonna be 5 years down the road.
It's soon, one of the foremen is getting close.
What, 5 or 6 years away?
That's a good ways away then.
Yeah, it's a few years away, but we don't ever want to go in and do some structure changes that would make someone get a demotion or lose their job. We want to do this through, like I said, natural attrition. You know, this is the perfect opportunity to consider something like this because you don't have a Creo foreman right now. And so if we were going to do a change like this, this is just the perfect opportunity to do it. So we wanted to bring it to your attention, see how you guys felt about it. We talked to James Boudreaux, the Cameron foreman. He is willing to do this, and he's willing to take on the responsibility. And we have some ideas. We asked for a recommendation from him on who his leadoff hand would be. So we did all the preliminary work. We just really would like you guys to approve it if it's something that you would like to see us do. We think that it would really service the community. They would get better service from all of us, consolidating versus keeping them separate. And it would be easier for the Jewars. You know, now you have one foreman to talk to in this area.
I think we need some more hands, though. We used to have 2 foremen and 4 hands on each crew. And we got a foreman and maybe a hand in each, was in each district, 2
How
3
many
people
did
maybe.
we have?
And we got a lot of,
You got Foreman, then you got Brian Terrio and Colton and Cameron, and then you got Kent,
So
which he's fixing to be on a machine, Trico, so you're just gonna have 2 left in
right, you're gonna have Tommy and
Jared.
Jerry.
Yeah. We'd like to try to.
So we'd be down like 1 crew again.
Right.
4 and 4 people.
But instead of, we'd like to consider
2
maybe
areas.
hiring seasonal work, you know, bring them on. They could be full-time, but they would be considered seasonal. And then at the end of the summer, if you didn't need all of them, then you could let a few of them go and keep one full-time when things slow down in the fall. But if you need all of them, then you could bring them on and make them permanent. That would be an option.
I think the jury shouldn't overreact to hiring personnel unless the department's asking for them. Is the
That's right.
department asking for the personnel?
I mean, if they can't get the job done, he needs it, then we need to.
Yeah, I mean, we don't wanna,
three.
I
No,
don't
I ain't
wanna
saying hire
go,
4
I don't wanna
people.
go dictating to the road superintendent that we need to hire more people. I need to dictate to the road superintendent, if you're not getting the work done, why are you not getting the work done?
Yeah.
And then she goes, then either they'll come and tell you, well, I ain't got enough personnel.
Not enough
Okay,
equipment.
we'll fix that. Or I ain't got enough equipment. But we ought to not be up here dictating to hire personnel when the department is not asking.
My problem is the work's not getting done.
But we do
Well,
have.
we need to,
All over
we got,
Cameron.
well,
I mean,
that,
mainly, I mean, there's a lot in Cameron area because there's a lot of activity here. But I'm down here every day, Creo, Grand Chenier, I mean, there's
We-
a lot of things that ain't getting done. But the foreman's not gonna come over here and say, I need 4 more hands to get this done. They just do what they're told.
Right, and we're not asking.
So
we're
we
not
need
asking
to,
for
I mean,
new
this work's
hands.
gotta be done regardless.
What
Then you
we're
gotta have
asking
somebody-
for is why have they not been replaced? That's all. they're
Then you gotta have
asking.
flaggers, so we don't have anybody to have flaggers, so half the time they can't get a job done, because they don't have anybody watching the roads.
Or they gotta pull from
Right.
another
you're
group.
gonna set, if you're gonna set up, and yeah, we done had this discussion a jillion times, guys. If you're gonna set up a safe work zone, then nobody has enough personnel to set it up. And no part of the parish. So,
I mean, we gotta get better where we're at. And
gotta
I've
get
been
that,
asking the question,
but
why
Thomas,
this
you
ain't getting
gotta,
done.
you gotta give the department the opportunity to come and ask for it.
They don't act, I mean, they get hammered every time they ask for different things, and it's always cut back, cut back, cut back.
Yeah, but I can't
mean,
remember
I'm
here
all right
lately
with
we
cutting
cutting back
But
nothing.
I wanna get the work done.
Well, I do too.
But
But
then,
I feel like in Grand Lake, we're not getting the work done.
Well, then let's get it done.
because then when you have a storm.
Yeah, but I don't wanna go dictate to the road superintendent that he need to hire personnel.
Okay, it's our job to make sure this gets done. Whether the superintendent don't wanna do it or whatever, we're gonna do what it takes to get the work done. And if it means that they gotta come over here and say, oh, I might need another hand, I'm not willing to do that. I'm willing to get out there and say, these roads need to be fixed. Now, we're gonna get what we need to get it done. You know,
Well,
that's our
exactly,
job.
but it's not good for us to dictate to them what personnel they need.
Well, I'm telling the road crew right now, Katie, I ain't for no more cutting back on this road crew stuff. I'm out here to get this work done. And if it don't, I'm ready to roll heads. I mean, whoever it
So
is.
whoever,
Okay.
they need
Well-
to come to us.
Well, the thing is what I got a deal issue with is, every time we have a hurricane, you wanna hire more people in the offices. That's what I see. More people for more paperwork.
Nothing out
You
in the
know,
field to get
nothing
the
out in
work
the
done.
field.
Hey,
So,
I
I
would be
mean-
glad to go out in the field.
Well, that's what I said a while back, everybody needs these
I'm
officers.
not
everybody gets-
condemning y'all, but I'm just saying, out in the field needs to be done too.
You start
Yeah,
cleaning,
we have hired, we did hire some hands after the hurricane. If they feel like they need more, then we are certainly open to hiring more foremen.
I hear
It hasn't been
the hand
requested.
telling me that, look, we just don't have enough people. If it means for them to come tell y'all,
Well,
then
they
that's what
need-
I'm gonna tell them.
And that's
Y'all need to go
becoming
tell them.
a very big problem is they need to talk to their supervisors and not to the jury if they need someone to be hired or if they have any
Right.
problems with their
We
pay.
just-
Chain of command.
Didn't we hire?
There is a chain of command.
When-
We hired Braylon as part-time seasonal to help. He's been helping out. Eric Gaspard is part-time. He's been helping out.
where's that at,
And
where Erickson Klondike?
Eric's been in Klondike lately, helping over there. Who was the other one?
Because actually, we was gonna hire him full-time, what we were supposed to.
No, but who?
We just wanna
We
make
live
sure
with
they're not
Karen.
Oh, we
chastised for
replaced-
going
yeah.
through their.
And if we
period.
need to hire, like I said, I'd love for us to hire a few extra hands to help out this summer and then see where we are. If we need to keep them, then we certainly would keep them. But every full-time position you bring on now is one that, 10 years from now, when the work slows down, that you still have. So you just need to make sure you have enough work to justify keeping them long-term. And that's all we're trying to do. But this consolidation is not eliminating a position, it's just restructuring what you already have. Just looking at it a different way.
But it is eliminating one because Wolfman passed, so now we're gonna take
You need
James
a-
to do
a
both
late-
jobs, where he used to help on the road crew, and now he can't help. So he's gonna be tied up like crazy with,
Exactly, but we would replace instead of replacing Gregory with the foreman, you would use an existing foreman and you would hire a laborer to give you another
okay, well
laborer.
then,
We need
down
them.
the chain, there's still
yeah.
somebody missing.
Let me say something.
That's good.
Why
No,
why
yeah, we
couldn't
hire
we
a laborer.
hire two floaters? Two guys that would float, one for the west side and one for the east side. And if they need the floater down here, we'll work him here today. If they need him up there tomorrow, we'll work him over there. That'd be,
Well, that's what we did. We hired
Yeah.
somebody for Creole, but we ended up being a floater and sent him to Klondike.
Yeah, but
It's still Creoles.
Actually, Hackberry and Don Chabaya don't
I'm
need
gonna get in
that.
here somehow.
We don't need
We're
that.
asking-
Go ahead, go ahead.
My point being is that we're not asking for more hands. We're asking what happened to the hands that we had. That's what we're
We're
asking.
gonna replace that one, but we needed, before we went and just replaced one, we wanted to make sure that what we were replacing was a laborer or if it was one, we're gonna hire that person, but we want the foreman to have some say in who their labor, who their hand's gonna be. We don't wanna just go hire
So you
someone.
basically, you wanted approval to restructure
Cameron
before
Crew.
you hire,
Yes.
so you know who you hired.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
That's fair.
And so
Then
we'll
we'll
look at
hire
replacing that.
If we need-
And if we need more, then we need more, but more. I know not every community's the same. There are a lot more parish roads in some districts than there are in others, especially with grass cutting. And we did what we could to help the road crew. I know we don't have as many classified road crew now as we did before in recent times, but we have a facility maintenance crew now. And they take on a lot of that work that the Cameron crew used to do. Cameron Rec, they hired their own facility maintenance person. So a lot of the work that the Cameron crew used to do, they're not responsible for anymore. So they can take on more in the Creole area by combining it because they're not worried about Cameron Rec anymore. They're not worried about the courthouse square anymore. So it eliminated almost 40% of their workload just by doing that.
But I could take you in a truck and ride you around. How many culverts in this parish are stopped up? How many ditches are stopped up? And there is no way that we're gonna ever be able to fix all that with 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
And you gotta take 2 to flag traffic. You got one on track one on dump truck. So that means we gotta borrow something from another crew, put them behind, especially in the summertime. There's just not enough people out there to do the work we need to do in the parish on our roads.
And who's gonna come work part-time? So maybe a college maybe a college kid or something?
I don't mean part-time work. I just mean they're not going to be a part of our retirement system.
Well, who wants to come work, Katie, who wants to come work and you can't have benefits?
I don't know.
I appreciate
We have
you
two
always
right
trying to
now.
save money and cut back, Katie,
Uh-huh.
but there's a point where we have to have personnel. It's just like, before we took people, cut them out, spread the workload between the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
I was okay with that at first, but then I can see where it's a big problem. I'm not for that no more. We'll get, not my vote anyway.
I remember you used to
We-
tell you,
we need to keep people
y'all load the
coming.
wagon, I'll pull it, remember that?
Yeah.
Y'all not pulling it.
So anyways, this is just something we wanted to present. We'd really like to try it. Like I said, the crew was supportive, the foreman was supportive. We
can
think it's
still do
something
that. I
we
mean,
still
we
are
can-
gonna have to hire
At the end of
crew members for this,
At the end of
but
the day, the jury wants the work to get done.
yes.
And
And if
and
it's
we-
not getting
we
done to
really
your
don't care
liking,
how
we'll
many
make sure
people
it's
you
done
have
better.
out there. We do care how many people you have out there, but we want the work done. And it's that simple.
So where's that blacktop patch?
So
at?
y'all
We ever get
figure it
one?
out. We ain't got a blacktop patch.
We're waiting on electricity to heat it back up, see if we can empty it and refill it.
Wait, hold up.
Now, why should
Waiting on
that take so,
electricity?
you shouldn't be waiting on electricity.
We got electricity
We
everywhere.
called
We ain't got a
Energy
morning
this week.
rally.
Yeah.
We ain't had no poles or nothing.
Yeah. All that was
Electricity
discussed.
where? What are you talking about?
Grand Lake Barn.
What
To
you
heat
need,
Well,
the
you
tank
can't bring that
back
to
up.
the parish board here?
50 amp plug?
No,
or
it's the
something?
tank
It's a
that
big
holds
220.
the
Oh, the
tank.
main tank.
Yeah, the main tank.
I
And
thought
it's
you
done
talking about
got
the road
oil.
patcher. What about the road patcher?
That got hard too, no electricity.
Okay, so there's any way to heat that up, or we need to purchase another one?
We are waiting on Energy to heat our power up so we can see if it's gonna,
You can't run on a big generator,
not that big tank, that's 220.
what, 220 ain't nothing? I mean, how many KWs you gonna need?
I mean, we can get a generator and try it. Energy's supposed to come next week.
It can't be that much.
Bring it to Hackberry, stir my
This is my
hands up.
deal. It's been 6 months, Shane.
Oh, I know.
6 months. There's no excuse. No excuse. There's other ways to get it done. I mean, generators, there's
How
plenty
many
of ways.
how many guys you wanna hire?
Huh?
I mean, if
We'll
they're-
find
if
out.
they're-
No, we're gonna get with the foremen, and we're gonna see what they need.
Okay, but I mean, I know y'all wanna do work down here, but there's no residents down here. We got a bunch of residents
No,
in Grand Lake that need ditches cleaned, so let's
No.
hire a bunch up there also then.
Joe, I'm not going Grand Lake or Cameron bullshit,
Okay.
okay? I'm
Well,
just
not
saying,
nobody going bullshit.
I'm saying for down here, riding around, we can see it, the
It's
problems that we
everywhere like
had.
that.
Well, okay, speak up.
Okay.
Well, then we got businesses down here, you know, got a lot of activity down here is what I'm saying, and it ain't getting done. There's a
Not
blacktop
getting
piece
done
missing
everywhere.
15 feet that ain't been patched or fixed since the storm. Always an excuse why we wait.
Well,
Wrong.
and they got a lot of work going on too after the storm. These
Well,
guys been
6
working pretty
months,
hard
though.
after the storm.
I agree, but they ain't enough. They ain't enough of them to
How
get
many
it
you wanna
done.
hire?
Huh?
How many y'all need? I mean, we need to get with the foremen and see.
We'll get with the
what-
foreman.
And how many you need too? I mean, y'all might need
Yeah,
some
I'm
over there.
I'm
hell.
not saying y'all don't need
You know,
no.
how many cover cleaners we got? We still
Well-
have, do we have one, two? How many we got?
Yeah.
Two,
In the whole parish?
yes, sir.
Yeah,
One on
two.
the east side, one on the west side.
And if there's
There is a
issues in your
tremendous amount of
district
work out
with roads that need to be paved or a certain culvert, you know, if you would just relay that to us, we make sure that we'll have that prioritized. I mean, the road crew's working as fast as they can, but I mean, realistically speaking, I mean, everywhere in the parish needs to be worked. You can't do all the work
Exactly,
at
that's
one
why we
time.
need people. We need people to
But
get it done.
we also have to be able to do it within our means, and our road and bridge department does not have the money to support that kind of stuff. So
We
every
never did have the money to support that, so
right,
let's not do that.
too much. Now the general fund could handle bringing on a few more employees, but if you're talking like having doubling your workforce, there's no way we could handle supporting that financially. We are wanting to add the two missing people in the lower district that, you know, with Gregory passing, he needs a laborer. And then with us pulling Kent to do drainage lateral, he's gonna be digging nonstop as well, just like Carl Melvin is. So we are gonna replace those two positions, and if we need more, then they need to tell us
So we
more.
need to hire
But
him to get
we
him.
talked to the foreman, we talked to James Boudreaux in Cameron, he's the foreman. I asked him if we need to hire anyone, and he said he'd let me know. But I can't do anything until they speak up. Like I said, and if they have a problem with the way they're being supervised, they need to come tell us. They don't need to tell you because it's not making its way to us. We're not getting the complaints.
But
We
they
don't
get
know
their
if they're
ass chewed out every time
shorthanded.
they come try to suggest something. So I'll get to the bottom of it.
And they can come to me. If they're getting turned down in the road and bridge department by their supervisor, then the chain of command is to come to me and let me know. But this is the first I'm hearing that it's an issue. And I'll promise you, I'm gonna get to the bottom of it, and they will be out there
And that's-
Talk to
working.
you
And
before
that's
about
why I
it.
said,
But it
that's
needs
why
to
I
come
said
here.
earlier, we shouldn't get into the business of
No.
hiring personnel without a request from the department.
But
Exactly.
I'm
And-
explaining to you, they got problems with that, Lee, right now. They got problems with going to the road superintendent and getting to Katie and getting the things done, okay?
They
I
haven't
think
came, one road crew person.
Well, we need to take
Two
care of
has
that.
come to me in the last year and a half with an issue, and we've handled it, but I've only ever talked to 2 of them, and if they don't bring up their problem, we have a grievance procedure, we have everything. We have all the paperwork for them to lay out their issues and for us to solve it, and if it's shorthanded, if it's low pay, whatever it is, we have a process for that, but they have to go through the right process, because at the end of the day, it's really out of your control. It's something that has to be handled
I think we
here.
We're not supposed to get in the
And
day-to-day
they
operation.
need to come to us, and the best thing you can do to help your district is if they
We're
call
supposed to
you,
take
is
care of
call
our
us.
That's right, but not the day-to-day operation.
But,
We're not here for that.
but I just wanna ask this again, I'm gonna hit this horse till y'all, somebody hears it. If we replace the people that are missing,
Mhm.
then we can have this conversation, do we need more, do we need less? But we need to replace
And
those
we are
people, so we
replacing.
know if we're behind or not. You know, and if they can handle it, then we got
How
our
many,
people, but if they
how many
can't.
personnel are we behind? How many personnel we need to replace?
Right now, we have 2 in the lower Cameron area, and then there's gonna be 1 in Johnson Bayou, because we promoted within Tony Johnson, Tony Trahan retired. That new form is gonna be Daniel Blanchard, so we'll need another laborer in Johnson Bayou
So you got 3 positions?
right now, yep.
And how many does that make in
And that's already on the
Cameron and
budget.
Creo
It's not
area?
like we're adding more to the budget. if I'm not
No,
mistaken.
total people working.
Oh, Cameron Creo, well,
Crew,
that'll
yeah.
push them to,
3,
no, Cameron
4.
Creo together.
4.
4 total, and then you add 2, that'll be 6.
If you add 2 more. So right now, we have 4 people for Cameron and Creo.
Plus a foreman, 5.
Yeah.
Just
I
thinking,
would-
we
Five
used to
with
have
four.
10.
Grand Chenier,
Used to have
5 with the
10,
foreman.
And now we're trying to get the same work done with 4.
You have, wait a minute, what'd you say with Grand Chenier?
5, 4 laborers and a foreman in Grand
That's,
Chenier.
that's the normal crew that used to always have.
No,
And the Grand
You see, they
Chenier
took some from
district
Creo,
goes
put
from
Grand
Mermentau
Chenier, they only
back.
had 2. Well, then that left Creo
Right.
short.
from Vermillion Parish back this way
How
to
far?
Creole.
All the way to Creo, okay. So they got a big district.
Yeah, and now we try to structure the number of hands that are required based off the equipment at that barn. So anytime that there was not the same 4 laborers and then the foreman, it's because they didn't have the equipment. Now, if you want more people working, we can look at buying more equipment.
Need more equipment.
But do we need 10 people when we only have 1 tractor and 1 lawnmower?
No, we got.
You know,
we got
that's
to
what
pay.
we have to look
We have
at.
to
So we got to make sure that we're keeping them busy, because you know as well as we do that when you get a lot of workers and not enough equipment on the road, then that's more people just driving their trucks and sitting,
And you
and
don't
that's
have
what
to
the
have
complaints
equipment
are.
for everything. I mean, you gotta have flagmen, you gotta have
Yes.
different people driving dump trucks. I mean, it eats it up. 10 people is nothing for an area like this.
All right, and we got a lot of work after the storm, and we can rent equipment if we need equipment.
Yes,
But
and
not
that's what
full-time.
we're
We done
doing right
told
now. We actually
They need a
are.
Traco rented.
We did. We've told
To
them
clean
all
ditches.
this. We've asked them, we've rented equipment. I mean, like I said, and we're gonna have a staff meeting next week with all the road crew, and they can let us know what their problem is and why they can't get their work done.
Right, and just know this, springtime's right around the corner, people are gonna be in their yard mowing when they start hitting all this trash that the people didn't pick up. We're gonna get phone calls, and because our ditches ain't clean, or they ain't draining, because there's trash in the culverts, blah, blah, blah.
It's drainage is a big issue. in the
It
lower
stopped up right across from my house right now, Mr. Kenneman's and all over there.
We always
That's
could
on state, but
use,
still.
we always could have used more than 1 culvert cleaner, we should have had a couple, at least a couple of them in the parish.
Oh, they still got one in Hackberry, huh?
They got one in Hackberry for that side and one up here for this side.
And I know there's a lot of work that needs to be done now, and it's just really obvious. But like I said, we had equipment before the storm that the crew and the equipment kept up with everything. So there is gonna, I know it's been 6 months, but it takes time to buy equipment, replace equipment. So when you lose a lot of your equipment, and then you already only had 1 culvert cleaner because you didn't have
Katie,
10,000
we can-
culverts to clean at one
We
time, but
can
now
rent
you
it.
do.
We can rent, no excuse.
We can rent,
We can rent it
yes.
and get it down and get it done.
Yeah.
There had times where Cameron was using, say, the push hog, the couple of tractors, where we didn't have enough tractors for Creo to even use.
Mhm.
So we need more equipment to it, that way everybody can be working. I mean,
Sure. We are,
Hey,
like
we
I said,
can-
I'll have a meeting with everyone next week, and we'll get us a game plan scheduled out, and we'll make sure that they are out there, and whatever equipment needs to be rented, it's gonna be rented next week, and We're gonna replace those positions, and we'll report back to you next month on our findings with the foreman, and if they feel like they need more help, or if they're okay with the way they are.
You gotta emphasize the work out there is tremendous, and we need to get it done. And don't leave nobody out throughout the whole parish.
Right.
Okay.
Encompass everybody. We need to hire Ricky, a person to stay in Klondike where we can pull a person back to Creole. That's perfectly fine. Let's figure that out.
Okay.
We shouldn't have our personnel from Creole when there's so much work that needs to be done working in Klondike. They
We
need
need
to,
the transportation of him over and back.
running him back and forth. We need to hire somebody in Klondike. So,
How many we got in Klondike? Two?
Two, and,
Two
and
and
actually
four.
Eric's living over there, that's why.
Yeah, he lives on that end.
He is
Eric
living
lives
there
over there.
now. That's why we placed him over there. They needed help, and it's
So that
just
makes three
convenient
or
for him
two?
to be there.
2 and a foreman.
Two in the form, yeah.
that's all what they always had.
Ricky and 2 more, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
they need it. That's good.
That's what they had.
That's always that.
So, back to the request for restructuring, how do you feel about that? Having one foreman per barn and doing a leadoff hand position?
That's fine.
That's his fault.
It's fine if that's gonna work. When it don't work no more, we'll change it.
Okay.
I mean, you gotta try.
I have it.
Mhm.
It's gonna be,
If the personnel are good with it, there's less confusion that way.
Okay. That would be something we would ask to add on the agenda to be voted on today. Also in this classification system for the Road and Bridge Department is the asterisk fire certification, and then even an asterisk for waterworks certification. And since we have been so dependent on our road crew lately with waterworks, and now if we go ahead and pursue that idea of letting anyone that wanted to from the road crew get certified in fire, compensate them for that, and that would be worked into the classification system. So as long as they maintained any certifications and any type of training they needed, then they would be eligible for that extra pay.
Yeah.
And,
I would say
and it
yes.
wouldn't be forced on the road crew. It's going to be voluntary, but it's an opportunity for them to make more money.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
let me ask you, that'd be a 50 cent hour increase throughout their normal time, not during the fire time.
Right, no, just add it on top of their salary, and that's per
Yeah.
certification. I think there's different levels of waterworks certifications, and there's different levels of firefighter certification. So if you end up with only one, then it's 50 cents per hour. But if you end up going all the way through and get 4, well, then that's gonna be $2 extra an hour.
And your
As long
fire
as you make-
certification, you're gonna have, our fire department, and you're gonna have you're already gonna have your officers are your leads. So any more certification than that, you don't really need. So fireman certification is really all you need on those.
And we need to, as the jury, and I don't know if y'all do it, but I haven't been doing it like I probably should be doing it. We need to call in work requests. So when you see a job that needs to be done out there and it ain't got done, call in and put it, and what that does, it puts it on paper so nobody can forget about it. Or be mistake, well, I didn't understand that's exactly what he wanted to do. If you call in and just do a work request, the jury can do that. You see some or hear from somebody that says, look, this needs to be done, or my water don't drain, well, whatever, just call it in or have them call it in, the complainer, and put in a work request. And then it gets earmarked with on a paper trail, so they can keep track of it.
I do, especially all the clean, I call Shane a lot.
Yeah,
But
everything
you need to
is
call, make
tracked.
sure it's put on the work request,
Right.
because
And-
Shane is human too, and
Well, that's for the debris mainly. I just
Mm-hmm.
hang up with him and call them or text them, that way I got it on
But
record.
I'm just saying.
Well, Mr. Lee's absolutely right. We have a work order system that is all electronic with our iPads. And as a work order request or complaint is filed through Emily's office, it gets issued a work order number, and she tasks it to whatever person within her department that needs the accomplishment, and it's time stamped, so she can follow up with it. She knows how long, when they started working, when they closed it, and if it's pending too long, then she's alerted, and then she can call and say, hey, why haven't you done this yet? We have that system, so he's absolutely right. You need to make use of it. shoot an email to the road crew, you can call Emily directly, and if it goes through that system, then it's a lot easier to track and follow up with. But we have to hear the complaints ourselves, you know. It's anybody that calls you, I know you're a drawer and you want to solve the problem, but it's got to make its way to our desk for us to know about it and be aware of it so we can fix it.
Hey, I don't want to get cranked back up on that situation we was on just a minute ago, but and I know you talked about part-time labor, we ever talked about like contract labor for 6 months? Instead of hiring people on with all the expenses of getting hired on, a contract company, you know?
To
I
come
mean,
in
that,
and clean the
to
culverts.
me, that would be, when the workload's here, we use them, then when the workload slows down, they're not
that's a
employed by
really-
the parish, we don't have all the expenses of insurance, retirement, vacation, you know?
That's a really good idea.
I mean,
Only
you
bad
can use
thing,
contract labor.
After Rita, they gouged all our ditches up when we tried that. They come in here and dug ditches and gouged
We
them up.
got flagmen, you know, like I said a while ago,
Right,
they,
no,
you
no,
know,
I
we can
understand.
harvest flagmen and doing different things. I mean, just something to look at maybe, I mean,
Right.
Well,
It's not, I don't know the cost, but we can look at it.
look at the cost. I mean, and that way we ain't busy, you can let them go for 6 months when the ditches ain't cut, but, you know, during the winter or whatever.
I mean, me, I look at like, we're probably now with the adventures here, we're probably the second parish is probably, is anybody else besides the school board, the next biggest employer of local people. So, I mean, you go to start contracting stuff out, that's what I'm afraid of. You go start contracting work out, and you got people want to work, and they want benefits, retirement, that's gonna stay here, and hopefully stay in the parish, you know?
One of those things, I mean, I don't think the parish is here to employ everybody in the parish neither. I
No,
don't
not
think that's our
everybody.
job to employ everybody. I think it's here to also save money, cut taxes, and do things like that. But if we can get the work done with a contract labor and it does it good, why not use that?
Yeah.
And it saves us money.
I just,
Something to try.
We just
I
gotta
don't mind
think
looking
about
at it, but
everything.
every time I've tried to
Okay.
do things like that, it costs me out my butt, you know?
Something to
We
look
can
at.
Because they're out there to
certainly,
make money, you know?
We can request some quotes from local contractors, like maybe give us a hourly figure
Yeah.
of every
Per
time
mile
they
ditch
work, for
or something.
equipment,
Yeah.
everything. And then Kara had a really good idea about if you assign one road crew person on with the contractor to just follow them around and monitor it, then maybe it would eliminate some
I
of
mean,
those
just something
issues
to
they
look
have.
at. I mean, it might not work. If it
No, it's
doesn't,
a
well,
good
we
idea.
tried.
We
And have we looked at it.
We probably need to do an evaluation of how much work is actually out there right from the get-go. We know there's a bunch, but we don't know how much is a bunch. And until you know that, you can maybe hire 15 people and it might not get you caught up. You may need to still hire a contractor like after we did with them other storms. I'm mainly talking about the lower part of the parish. Because I don't know how much silt and sand got washed in with these storms. I wasn't here.
Bad.
You
Yeah,
know,
it's bad.
for the last storm with Rita and all that, I was working here, I knew. But, you know, so I mean, we need to identify it and see if there's a need for even hiring more people and maybe even having a contract come in and do some of this work.
I know Katie and myself and Emily and Shane have gotten together last week or week before, to try to use some of the foremen, Cora Melvin and Kent, to start cleaning out these drainage laterals from the storm. There is gonna be some debris in there, some may be larger than, you know, because our priority is getting the drainage to flow. We have to get that debris out, some we may not be able to. So all of this is gonna have to be captured, and at a later date, we may have to hire a contractor to go in and remove all that debris. You gotta watch DEQ regulations of certain debris, so the landowners are gonna be aware that this debris will be moved out of the lateral and set us adjacent, and then at a later date, we may have to go in and get a contractor to remove that.
Yeah,
So,
and that's just something you're gonna have to
That is-
negotiate with the.
We
If
are
it's a bunch of,
working.
if that's a bunch of old marsh grass, no, they can rot out there. I mean.
Yeah,
they
yeah,
don't
but
rot.
if you got
Sand
an
don't
old
fall.
tank
Yeah, but
or
there is
something,
some debris
you got a
that's
tank, that's
underneath
something
that water
different.
level that we may not see yet, you know, so
you don't know
we got a lot
until
of
you get out
unforeseen,
in the
so,
lab.
we are working on that and starting that process of starting to clean out the lateral, so, I know Scooter has gotten with Coral Melvin, Gravity 3 in Cameron and 4 Creo, so, they do actually have some permits already out, Gravity 4 does, that Mr. Lonnie Harper started working on, so, there is permits being processed.
Are they
to
gonna be able to
clean.
access all that with a track code instead of a mark buggy?
There's one, the North Canal, Chenier Purdue, and the one south of Tina Horns. That's the two that are gonna be cleaned out, for now, for Gravity 5.
And they gonna do that for
The marsh machine is gonna have to be for
Yeah.
the North Canal, but the, long stick
Right.
can do the other one. I did get with Wendy to get with Gravity 7's board to see if they would be willing to, we could utilize their marsh machine with their operator to come and clean the North Canal lateral. So that is, an option that we're hoping that they'll agree to. So
We've done that in the past. We
Right.
even got to the point where we were gonna help out the drainage boards, but we got into some private property issues that we really didn't wanna get again. So I think we can do it. I think it's doable. They have a good tax base, so they have the money, and we have the guy sitting there. So yeah, I think we can do it.
Okay, good.
Let me know what you need, and I'll present it to them if I need to.
Okay.
The cost of that,
And
is
they-
gonna
yeah.
be the transportation
Yeah.
of the machine.
Yeah, and they can get reimbursed, they can, build a police jury, and that's another thing, I don't know if Katie wants to bring up today, but about the cost sharing of all these laterals that the parish is gonna be cleaning. Like she said earlier, it's 90/10 now, FEMA approved. We don't know if we're gonna get full reimbursement from FEMA for these cleanouts. So would you wanna pick up the 10% cost, or just half the cost, and the drainage boards would
Well,
pick
the
up the
drainage
rest?
board should have, if they have the money, they need to pay the 10%. That's what the
Mhm.
people pay tax in that area for. If not, then that's.
Yeah, we
jury
have to pick it up.
Yeah,
Okay,
but it's gotta be
That- yeah,
done.
the money needs to come from them if they got it,
Mhm.
and then if they don't have it, then we can.
we wanted to bring that up to you also.
But the drain lateral's gotta be clean.
Yes.
Okay.
And right now, Scotty's down and out. He's been fighting that COVID pretty bad.
Yeah, I think he's home now, but he's getting better.
Miss Aaron?
Scotty's better. When I talked to Marcia, day before yesterday, she said that she was gonna get with him and get the prices on hauling, the marsh buggy and doing all that, and then get back with me first part of next week so that I can let Karen.
Price for that, that's not a cost. Moving that
Just trying to
machine.
make sure they had
Oh,
everything
you
lined
about
up.
I mean, that's not a cost. I mean, you're
No.
talking about a couple $1,000.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
About $2,000.
you hire a contractor.
Oh, yeah.
That's not just a marsh
Ready
buggy.
to go to the engineer, B?
Yep.
This is,
Okay, so
3 times size of a regular marsh buggy.
we're gonna move on to the next thing. So we'll do the road and bridge classification system as an add-on. And then the second thing we want to talk to you guys about was, we do not have a parish engineer in-house. We don't have an engineering department. And we did some research, and most of the other parishes and any municipalities do have someone on staff. So we looked at their job descriptions to see how this position, if we were to create it, how could it serve the community. The job description is in your packet, but basically, this engineer could assist the drainage boards with all their coastal zone permitting when they're doing their lateral. They also could assist the road and bridge department in the culverts. Right now, we just have a minimum standard of culverts that are installed. If we had someone in-house that looked at the parish as a whole and not just as a single community, and before any culvert was installed, before any lateral was cleaned, if they were looking at their parish-wide plan and how it impacts each other, then we feel like we probably would stop being so counterproductive. Because right now, everyone's looking at each community by itself, and they're just trying to either get the water off their section without even thinking about how it's going to impact the neighbor. So sometimes solving their problems creating triple the problem for the neighbor. So we'd like to have that one person that's involved in everything. Gravity drainage boards with the road and bridge department, looking at that plan, and then they could do a lot of just the any of the project management stuff when we do these large construction projects. You do have an engineer of record that's doing the project, but you don't have anyone on staff right now that's really educated enough to look at their recommendations for change orders. Right now, we're just kind of having to agree, and we're so dependent on that engineer of record that it'd be nice to have someone that's educated and can be involved in the construction of that project, be able to look at the plans and say, no, you don't need this change order, or that's an over-design. We feel like that could save the parish, especially when we're about to start doing a lot of these water control structures and improvement projects. The last part of the job description would be, you know, I think most of you know that Miles has entered DROP. He's our chief building code official. He is our senior resident for anything in this office. I mean, he's our longest, probably our oldest and most experienced employee here. So we're obviously devastated that he's going to be looking to exit in the next, you know, few months to few years. We'll see where that goes, but we'd like to have this engineer come in and work under Miles and learn. And then when Miles did retire, then parish engineer would be appointed the chief building code official. And he would handle all the inspectors. The inspectors would answer to him, get the inspectors out of the permit department, and the permit department would just work on their normal assigning. They would assign inspections to these inspectors, but the inspectors would work under this parish engineer. Create an entire department.
Katie, I think you got way too
Who
much
you
on
said?
that one man.
Who you said?
Sir,
Who you said? Who's gonna take his place?
who do I want the engineer to be? I have no idea. We'll open it
No,
up
who's
and
gonna take his
advertise.
place?
Whose place?
Miles.
Just one
We
person?
don't, this one person, try to.
And the engineer, and take care of water.
I'm gonna tell you one thing, anytime you mix an engineer with the road crew, the work don't get done. I'm telling you,
It would mainly just be looking
you're
at
gonna
these,
slow down.
a lot of these, it would
'Cause
just
them
be
engineers
in-house
work
just to
way too
assist.
slow for us.
Yeah, it's something that's gonna be a work in progress. I know it's a position that's gonna constantly evolve. This is just a list of things that they could be responsible for. If it's something that you want us to pursue and advertise and develop this department and let them handle all of this work, then that's something when we hire an engineer, we'll work on what he's gonna be immediately responsible for, and then maybe what he would be responsible
What-
for in a few years.
If we had our own engineer, I imagine there are some things that he could do that you didn't have to go to an outside engineer.
What,
And let me tell you something, you're gonna hire some staff too,
Mr. President?
That's what I'm scared of.
because that person's not gonna be able to keep up with all that work.
Well, we just hire an engineer first, and then you got enough staff in that permit department, that will be able to help him. You got enough staff in that permit department to help him.
And yes, and we would work with him most definitely daily. But
She needs 3
Katie,
more.
Be like that. Be
you
like
know,
that.
I was hired in 2007, and that was my first question. You know, I started seeing all these permits, all the, you know, the drainage levels we have in this parish. So I'm like, why do we not have a parish engineer on staff? So I seen that first coming in.
Yeah.
How much how much all that's costing us to just get a little, you know,
Look on your
What?
paper.
you know?
No, we don't.
What about?
Oh, Senator, I'm sorry.
What do we spend now per year in engineering fees?
Oh, I mean, you'd have to give me a minute to go pull it,
Well,
but
the
a
reason I
lot.
ask
Sheriff was out away
that,
from her.
those fees should go way down if we have our own engineer staff. So, I mean, he shouldn't pay for himself. That's the point I want to make.
Now, this would be something that, of course, when he worked with if he was working with the drainage board to do their permit, well, then the drainage board, we would bill the drainage board for the share of the cost that he worked on it. You know, we wouldn't assume all of the cost. It's just something that it's important to us. We feel like it's time to have somebody looking at the parish as a whole and not so focused on each individual community. We just think it would benefit everyone. And then if we needed to hire someone else, we could, but this parish engineer would not be doing inspections. I mean, we still would have our inspectors. That's the difference. We have a 2-for-1 with Miles, and that's why we hate to see him go. He's our chief building code official, but he is an actual inspector right now. And he helps give us, he is a working chief building code official. This engineer would just serve as the appointed official for the parish and sponsor the inspectors.
Now, we have to order a
Supervising.
platter because his plate won't be big enough. Because I don't know how you'll find time to work with the drainage boards from listening to what we were already giving him to do.
Actually, Kara spends a lot of her time on that she would now just be able to assist on. But the drainage boards, they depend on our permitting department a lot for all their permitting and everything. They may hire out, but they still have a constant dialogue and conversation. And so it's something that they're already doing. It's not widely known.
Whatever you do, don't put all this in the deal where they have to know what they're gonna be doing. Just tell them we need an engineer. Because if you tell them everything you're gonna want them to do, they can say,
I think we have- well-
That's when you tell them the salary.
Yeah, well, I did some research on the salary. And, City of New Orleans, their engineers, starting salary is 63,000, and their highest paid, max out salary is 105,000. Their average hire rate was 73,000. That's what New Orleans does. So we can contact if you want to see other jurisdictions, see what Calcasieu Parish hires theirs at. But I think we'd have a lot more interest in this position, despite the salary, than you think. I think we'll have a lot of people that are going to apply because we do have great benefits. It would come with, use of a parish vehicle, parish phone. There's a lot of benefits, the retirement system, that when you work in the private sector that you might not get to see. So they might have some interest.
I think we need to put on the agenda and do it.
Yep. Do y'all think we're ready on the agenda? Y'all ready to hire one, or maybe y'all want to talk
I
about
still
it?
need
some more?
to.
Yes.
That dude ain't gonna.
Gonna slow everything down.
The only thing I'm afraid of, I hope
Tell
we
him.
can keep him. You get a guy and you train him and get going, and if he's good, they're always going to be offering him engineering.
I think there's
more
some
money.
out there that are more than willing to do it.
Engineer signs off on something, he's gonna make sure that every duck is in a row, okay? Before he signs off on it. I can see a lot of ducks in the row waiting before we're allowed to do a job. Just my thought.
Yes, sir, but I think that's really anywhere, like just building, for example, when we built the OEP pavilion in Grand Lake, we didn't have an engineer, so we had to go hire an engineer to design it. That takes time. Then, you bid the project and you had someone in-house, they would be able to tell you, if you had to design it, what it would be. If they didn't feel comfortable designing it, then they would tell you what kind of engineer to hire. They could do a lot of the bidding for us. I mean, there's so many different ways that we could use this engineer. Like I said, it would constantly be an evolving position, but we think that it's worth the money, and I think it would provide a good service to the community. It's up to you guys. It is a new position, a new department.
We first started talking about this, it was to help out like on all our drainage laterals and getting all that engineered. That's a lot of work to get done. And if we hire him to do all this other stuff and everybody's yanking his chain to go take care of this and that, he ain't gonna be able to get those drainage laterals done. So I mean, I'm willing to hire one to do that, but for him to do all this, it's impossible.
It's just what I said, a lot of ducks are gonna be caught up in the road.
It's gonna be held up because he's pulled everywhere and not finishing
And
projects.
we're gonna be
Well, let's give
mad
it-
because the work hadn't getting done, and they gonna be blaming the engineer because he ain't got the work to do it.
Let's get the laterals cleaned and,
Well, do you
whatever.
want to take things off? This is not a set in stone job description. This is just potential jobs that we could use them for. We can certainly strike things from it. This is very, very new. We haven't even advertised. We haven't even talked to anybody. That's something that we can work through if you want us to go ahead and proceed with it. But at the end of the day, if you still don't want to have an engineer no matter what, then we're not going to work on it anymore.
I think we need one.
One last question. I always got one last question. This engineer range that you got, was that for a licensed, registered engineer, or is that just for an engineer, period?
A license, a PE.
Okay, because if he doesn't have a stamp, he
Yeah,
can't do
ain't
your
no good.
drawings and that for you,
It would be,
You'll have to
a
have somebody
requirement
to
would
stamp
be
it.
a PE.
Huh?
Okay.
Ain't no good. That ain't got a stamp. You gotta have a PE.
Yeah, that would be a requirement of the job, of course. We wouldn't hire anyone that wasn't certified.
I just didn't know if they'd work for that amount.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
find out.
If you think it's gonna save money, if y'all think it's gonna save money, because that's what we here for. We here to save money.
Right.
well, no matter what, we
We're
have
gonna
to
work-
have someone to
Wait a
replace
minute,
Miles.
wait a minute, Lee. We gotta get the job done.
Yeah.
We wanna-
Well,
He
okay.
contradicts himself.
No, I didn't contradict myself. Say one side you're a politician, the other side you want the work done. And so you gotta say, okay, I wanna do it, I don't need the work done, but the cheapest way you can do
There
it.
you go.
What do we spend on
Regardless-
engineering work now?
A lot.
A lot, yes, sir.
Hey,
What's a lot?
What's the average cost of a lateral, to get a lateral done?
To dig it or to
No,
permit
engineering
it?
fees.
The engineering portion of it.
to get a permit. done.
Engineering permitting process.
Oh, 6 to 10,000 usually.
The fee, the local fee from the local engineer in the parish has been about, I think, 8 to 10. Outside of that, has been about 3,000 to 4,000.
So you clean 6, 7 laterals, you done got you,
What do you mean outside of that?
Other engineering firms.
so you clean 7
Local
ditches, you done
firms.
paid your salary already.
That's what she just said.
How much ballpark figure, what you think we spend in a year's time on engineering?
In-house for engineering or just as a parish, including gravity drainage?
Everything.
Oh, oof. Over
Over $1 million.
$1 million, I would say, on any given day.
So
lot.
whoever that person would be.
Go ahead and hire 2 of them then.
Yeah.
No, but I do want to remind you, maybe this wasn't clear, like this we have to replace Miles when he's in drop, no matter what. So do we replace Miles with an inspector that we invest money in
No.
to get him certified to be a chief building code official? Or do we just say we're gonna hire an engineer who can already be the chief building code official and also do all this
Help
other
us
stuff
do
too
that.
as needed?
That's the smartest thing to do.
That's kind of what we're asking, but regardless, we have to replace Miles when he leaves.
You put him in that permanent office, he ain't doing nothing for nobody else but the permanent office.
He's
Hey,
just,
Karen, all that, hey,
Or
all
she
them-
wants a bite.
Hey, Karen, all them arrows is coming from that side of the room. And they ain't nothing coming from over here, okay?
I think Katie can put together this job duties a little bit. We can probably critique this a little more and put some priorities.
Yeah. I say let's do it.
Yeah, because I see just now, I just really looked at it, right-of-ways for parish road and drainage improvements, acquire right-of-ways for that. Well,
And
that's
you can
not
see
really
these
gonna
other
be,
parishes are doing, I mean, and.
you know, we can get other people to do that.
this is just a generic job description of a parish engineer
Right.
throughout the state of Louisiana. That's what that is. We can tailor
But
it
he
to
probably
fit
had
our
staff to
needs.
do all
We
that.
can't compare ourselves.
But that's what the engineer would be responsible for, but
They probably have to have
we
it.
we can certainly tailor that to fit our needs,
I'm ready to
what
add
our
it to the
priorities
agenda.
are. Wait, so is that a yes or a no?
So we're
Yes.
gonna add this one too? Yes, no? maybe?
And I'm also going to get him to look at all that information once he's
About, oh
hired.
yeah, that
To
intercoastal.
look at all the,
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
all
he's
the
gonna look to get
information
the
that
engineer
we're
to do that
submitting.
for the intercoastal for you.
Down the side.
His
There you
first
go.
project is to
Say engineer
analyze
when they go listen to
Lee's coastal, intercoastal dredging project.
Y'all have some names, y'all already got this guy hired?
Almost.
No, we don't. No, we're gonna have to advertise. We would request permission, authority to advertise, and we'll see if anyone's interested. And like you said, we might not get anyone to advertise, and then there's our answer. But if,
You wanna take a 10-minute break, then we come back?
We're not
and-
done.
wait, one more, real
And
fast.
they got a lot of engineers out of the job out there.
And this is just something I wanted to bring up today. We don't have to move it to the voting meeting. If the parish engineering thing goes through, we would wait on him or her to get hired to talk about this. But Cameron Creel, Grand Chenier Waterworks. Grand Chenier and Creel are under administrative order. They're about to start getting assessed penalties. So the Rural Water Infrastructure Committee representatives came to Creel Waterworks board meeting a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Mr. Scott and I were in attendance, and they told us that a way to avoid the penalties and to improve the water quality and everything in Grand Chenier and Creel would be to consider consolidating it with Cameron. Tie in all of the lines in Cameron.
We put a check valve though for Cameron
Put check,
Water.
yeah, check
And
valves.
Cameron Water go to our engineer.
They asked us to at least consider consolidating that into one operating system. They've had success in other places throughout the parish. The guy that spoke that day said he took 14 systems and turned it into 7. And all of their water quality improved. They got off the administrative order, and then they were able to provide better water at a cheaper rate by consolidating into one system.
Ain't Grand Chenier and Creole tied together?
We all three are. Well, not actually, not
Depends
physically.
on who you
Grand Chenier.
ask.
It used to be.
Why wouldn't we wanna put that all together anyway?
Well, Cameron we still tied into Y. It was until Rita or Ike or something, that's where it was at the bridge.
No, but I'm saying, why
Why
wouldn't we
wouldn't?
want to do that?
And there are grants available out there that forgivable loans for the principal to pay for all of the costs associated with consolidating it. And if you provide your intent to consolidate on letterhead with the water district, that's acceptable to buy you more time to get an extension to address your issues in your administrative order to where you're not getting fined. Some of these penalties are extremely
Big time,
expensive.
they said, big time.
$5,000-$10,000 a day. And so we're at that point where we gotta do something. If we can't fix the water there, then we're gonna have to do something different. We did talk to Cameron also. Scott and I attended their meeting. They said they would be open to the idea if an engineering report came back saying that it was feasible and that it would improve the water and not cause their water quality to go
And we know definitely
being
want to
poor.
Job for the
help
engineer.
Cameron's water quality.
Yeah.
Hey,
Because you have some like Creel, for instance, has 4 wells, 2 are damaged. They're looking at, do we need 4 wells for just Creel? We don't have the money for 4 wells, so they're
Cameron's
looking
wants to drill another one,
at
you don't
doing
need to
something
drill
different. And Cameron and Grand Chenier don't have enough wells. Well, Cameron's looking at drilling a well because they don't have enough water. And then Grand Chenier has too much water, so they have to leave
They
a
got
hydrant running almost all the
3
time to
towers
flush
over
the
there,
system.
people coming this
Yeah,
way.
that's because not enough people using the water out of line,
Exactly.
that's why they gotta leave it open on that.
So everyone has their own issues, and so we would ask the jury to sponsor and pay for an engineering study, feasibility study, to look at all 3 districts and consolidate it and see how it could either improve or if it would not improve everyone's water quality and get us an estimate of how much it would cost to get us to the application stage. So if we present that to all 3 boards, if they're supportive of it, then we could apply for the funds and start.
But,
working
Katie,
on
Wait
it.
till we get that engineer hard and put him on that gas.
So I said we-
We'll save that $40,000.
Well, one of my deals is just tying them together is not gonna improve your water quality. There's gotta be some more stuff added to our system.
Exactly.
Well, he was
Everything's
telling
in,
us about all
everything
that.
would be in this engineering report. We'd have to hire someone that came in and worked with the DHH and all them, and they would look at everything. They would look at their pump stations, they would look at chlorinated, they would look at everything. And they would look at it as a whole system and pinpoint what you needed to do and not do to improve the water.
It wasn't just chlorine, he was naming some other stuff too.
Yeah, and he was really talking over our heads, I'll be
Yeah,
honest.
It's a
but-
holding
Other
tank.
stuff
One of
to
the
fix
things, I went to one of the meetings, our water's not held long enough for the chemicals to work right. We just put it in a line, it's going down the line. It needs to go to a holding tank where all that can dissolve and work right before it goes.
All of that
There's
would
some other
be.
issues with it, yeah.
Yeah, all
So
that
we-
would be in an engineering report. So, I was gonna ask for the police jury to pay for the report.
They said it would be maybe up to 40,000 maybe.
To do the
That study or
report,
something?
yeah, there's a planning grant as well that could pay for it. There's $40,000 grant. But if it's something that you wanted us to look into, we don't have to vote on it today. We can wait and see, if we're gonna get an engineer and bring them in, then maybe take his advice.
I just think personally, it's just silly to have 3 different systems, that where you can just connect them all together.
Well, no, that's what we wanted to do.
What time frame did he give you?
Or if we start getting penalty lives, yeah.
Well, he acted like if we gave him a letter of intent that we were working toward consolidation, that would definitely get him off the list for now, but he didn't give us a time frame on how long. it would
I
keep
think
on.
that's what we need to do, give them that letter that they're requesting, and that way they give you the time that we need to.
Get something done.
Hook them together.
Well, they all were, 'cause that was part of our fire rating stuff too, because we had we could open a valve and go, you could share water if you needed to for a fire or something.
We'll wait till the engineer stuff.
But it never was hooked back after Rita or Ike on that bridge and over right there. Cameron's still together at the Y. We need to get
There
the,
may be some issues,
bore
there
underneath
may be
there.
some issues with that you wanna go with your fire department, because they have to be able to.
Well, Timmy's gonna be- he's
but
being
They have
chief
to be able
the
to
whole time.
guarantee a certain amount of water within a certain amount of
Water,
time.
yeah, water comes
You
right
know,
with
for a
fire.
fire rating, you
Right.
have to be able to.
that's why they were all tied together. Fire rating.
You can probably help
Okay.
with that.
You ready? Well, she-
We're waiting on Mary.
we're gonna have to
Oh,
take a little break right quick.
okay, yeah, we could take a break if y'all are,
We gotta go to the bathroom.
sure.
Meeting adjourned for now, man.
Hey, I got a question. I got a wastewater certification. I get 50 cent a mile.